Guys, I just saw this story in the news. It really reveals how evil NATO is. It reveals how evil the revolution that NATO enabled and backed in Libya was, and how evil America was in murdering Gaddafi, in backing these rebels who sodomized and murdered Muammar Gaddafi. 6 Libyans are facing the death penalty for converting to Christianity. Now, this didn't happen under Gaddafi. And they were saying that the overthrowing of Gaddafi was an advancement for freedom. It was a victory for freedom. The rebels wanted freedom. It was the toppling of despotism, an evil tyrant named Gaddafi. Hillary Clinton was saying, we came, we saw, he died, ha ha ha. He's such an evil tyrant. He deserved to be killed. Well, look at Libya now. Look at Libya now, and look at Libya right after Gaddafi was overthrown. Sub-Saharan Africans were being put into cages and sold as slaves, literal slavery. The black minority in Libya were being protected under Gaddafi. Christians were protected under Gaddafi. Christians were allowed to have crosses on their tombstones. The fanatics took over and they began to destroy the crosses on the tombstones. They began to persecute Christians. They began to literally take blacks who were protected under Gaddafi and sell them as slaves. And here we are in America talking about freedom and how we need to support this revolution because it's for freedom. And oh yeah, don't forget Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Oh, but at the same time, let's support this revolution led by racists, and let's help them overthrow a political leader, the leader of a country who was actually protecting blacks. Everything is upside down. It's just so twisted and sick. But I'm looking at this story that came out, published by The Guardian, which is a British publication. And the British were some of the biggest backers of the overthrowing of Gaddafi. They were hailing the overthrowing of Gaddafi. Now, I'm not saying that the author of this article necessarily supported that, but nonetheless, the fact that you have a British publication saying this, it's amazing, because the British were supporting the overthrowing of Gaddafi, and now you have a British publication saying, oh, look how bad things are in Libya. But it says here that 6 Libyans are facing the death penalty for converting to Christianity and proselytizing under laws increasingly being used to silence civil society. Notice the words here, increasingly being used. Why are they increasingly being used now? Why? Because Gaddafi's not there. Because Gaddafi was overthrown and a bunch of thugs and gangsters and fanatics overran Libya and took it over. A bunch of lunatics. It's just like Iraq. It's just like Iraq. It's just like Syria. It's just like Egypt. The Americans backed a revolution in Egypt to overthrow Mubarak. The Muslim Brotherhood took over. Thankfully, thanks to a Russian-backed military leader, Mr. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, that's no longer the case. And thanks to the Russians, the Americans were not able to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. But nonetheless, they were trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. And they backed rebels, and they armed terrorists. And look at how much chaos that caused. Massacres being done by rebels, horrific crimes being done by rebels, executions, you name it. But Bashar al-Assad is the bad guy, and you're supposed to believe the people telling you that. And they told us that Gaddafi was the bad guy, and look at Libya. You have Christians facing the death penalty. Not under Gaddafi, under the new system that is now in force after the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi. And the Americans keep telling us, the people for NATO keep telling us, oh, no, this policy is good. We should try. Why in the hell should we trust these people? They're telling us to support Ukraine. They're saying, "Oh no, the Euromaidan was good." The very people who wanted the overthrow of Gaddafi, the overthrow of Assad, the overthrow of Mubarak, the overthrow of Saddam, the same types of people from the same Brzezinski regime are telling us to support Ukraine and that the Euromaidan was good. Why in the hell should we trust these people's judgment? It leads to nothing good. This is why I'm not jumping on the blue and yellow flag bandwagon. Under Gaddafi, Christians were tolerated. In fact, in Islam, if you go to Mecca as a non-Muslim, they can kill you. If you go to Mecca and you're a Christian, you go to Mecca and they know you're a Christian, they can kill you. You know what Gaddafi said back in 2006? He said Christians should be allowed to go to Mecca. Why kill them? Why kill Christians in Mecca? Why? He didn't care if Christians ever visited Mecca. He didn't say, kill Christians in Mecca. He didn't say that. He said the opposite of that. Why? Because his rule was not something based on religion. It was tribal rule. Gaddafi was a simple man who wanted to live in his tent. He came to America. He came to New York, and he was there, I think, for some UN meeting. And he said, "I don't want a fancy schmancy hotel." He said, "Just give me a tent. Let me sit in my tent." And people were complaining, where's this guy's tent gonna be? And Trump, he was running Trump Tower and all that stuff. He had his hotel empire. Trump said, "Give him a tent. Give him his tent in the park in downtown New York." And people were complaining about it, but there was Gaddafi's tent on the park, and this was some evil man? What on earth are people thinking? This was some crazy lunatic? He's just some simple Middle Eastern guy who wants to live in his tent. I read a book by Gaddafi. Gaddafi wrote books. I remember reading one of his books, and he said, all you need in life is, what was it? He said, all you need in life is goat milk and dates, and you can survive. He was a man of simplicity. He was a man of rustic living. And at the same time, he was very educated. He knew history. He talked about the French Revolution. In fact, he said in one of his writings that the French Revolution was the precursor to Karl Marx and these Marxian revolutions. And he was absolutely right. The man was sharp. He was very educated. But he was portrayed as this evil psychopath. He was portrayed as this, narcissistic lunatic or whatever. He was a typical Middle Eastern leader. And the Americans murdered him. It was a damn crime what the Americans did, supporting these rebels who they took Gaddafi and they sodomized him. They shoved a stick up his anus. I mean, horrific. Humiliated him, lynch mobbed him. It's a crime what the Americans did, what the British did. It's just evil. And now the British are talking about how there's persecution going on in Libya. Well, this is life in Libya without Gaddafi. And I remember Anthony Bourdain. Oh, Anthony Bourdain! This guy that for some strange inexplicable reason Americans worship. I don't know why. I've seen liberals and conservatives together revere Anthony Bourdain as if he was some kind of a saint, some kind of a genius. And Anthony Bourdain went to Libya. And he was hanging out with these rebels, and he said, oh, this is so great. And Anthony Bourdain himself, he said, life is so much better. You know how he talked? He had that voice, that New York voice. Life is so much better now in Libya without Gaddafi. Yes, there are problems. Yes, there are struggles, but it's still so much better. In every country that man went to, every country that Mr. Bourdain went to for his CNN show, he promoted the trash of that society. He went to Greece and he was hanging out with a bunch of crazy anarcho-feminists. He was promoting the trash of Greece. He went to Libya. He promoted the trash of Libya. He went to Mexico and he was talking about Santa Muerte. He promoted the trash of Mexico. Every country that guy went to, he promoted the trash. Why? Because Anthony Bourdain was trash. And America loves to promote trash. Every country they go to, they'll promote trash. They promote the scum of humanity. And that's what America did in Libya. They went to Libya, they murdered Gaddafi, and then they uplifted the trash of that society. Any group of people who lynch mob a man and they shove a stick up his anus and murder him, those people are scum. But those are the people that America supported. Absolute scum. And now look at Libya. It's a dump. It's a dump. It's insane. It's full of lunatics. And they expect us to believe them when they say we should support Ukraine. I don't get it. You guys wanted us to support the overthrowing, the toppling of Gaddafi, and to support Libyan rebels. And in doing that, you wanted us to support racist, because Gaddafi was protecting the black minority in Libya. Gaddafi was murdered, then the black minority was persecuted and enslaved. So you wanted us to support racists in Libya. You wanted us to support fanatics in Syria. You wanted us to support fanatics in Iraq. And now you want us to support fanatics in Ukraine. I'm seeing a very, very dangerous pattern here. And I'm glad that enough people have taken notice of this. It's very depressing, guys. It's a very depressing, dismal reality that we live in, that evil at any moment can just take over, can take over your country, bring civil war, bring massacres. I mean, look at what happened in Serbia. 2 shootings in 2 days. I mean, America gets these shootings every year. We become desensitized to it. Serbs aren't desensitized to it because they're not used to it. But evil can pop up at any moment and take your life and take life away, and that's why we have to be vigilant. We have to be aware of the spiritual war that we're in. We have to, do the right thing. And that's pretty much all the power that we have in this life. The only power that we have in this life is to do the right thing. That's it. Somebody can get a gun and kill you for fun. And that's for the most part beyond your control. I mean, you can defend yourself. Doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna survive. But what people do is beyond your control. But what is not beyond your control is your choice, your ability, your will to do the right thing. That's the only thing we have in our power, guys, is to do the right thing. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.